Welcome to the last day of the 30th Annual Chef Culinary Conference. For our final presentation of the conference, we have assembled a group of 5 dining service professionals who are going to talk about how they use food and facility not only to satisfy the students they have in their care, but also to attract more students to their universities. Moderating our panel is Charlie McConnell, who is the Director of Insights and Best Practices at IFMA. Charlie was one of those instrumental in putting together the food service leadership councils that IFMA has, one of the richest college and universities. So without further ado, please welcome Charlie McConnell.
Where are you going, Paul? Good morning, everybody. And like Paul said, Charlie McConnell. I'm with IFMA, which stands for the International Food Service Manufacturers Association, also known as the Food Away from Home Association. We're a little bit of an identity crisis right now. We're really trying to figure out exactly what we are, but needless to say, we're here to support the entire food away from home ecosystem, whether you're a supplier, manufacturer, a distributor, a broker, a chef, an operator, you run the dining services for a large or small university. IFMA is here to support you. And on behalf of IFMA, I wanted to thank UMass, particularly Christopher Holland and Ken Toom, for inviting me to be part of today's panel, and also for inviting Phil Kafarakis, our president and CEO, who was on a panel yesterday as well. So I'm not going to introduce our esteemed panel. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we have a series of questions that we'll go through, and we'll also have some time, hopefully at the end, for any questions that our audience wants to ask. So think about what questions you might want to ask our panelists as we're going through today. I'm going to start on the far end of the table. Colin?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Colin Porter, Director of Hospitality Services at Western University in Canada. That's sort of halfway between Detroit and Toronto, for those who don't know. At Western University, we're a self-op program. We have 46,000 students as a student population. We're operating 8 dining halls that will soon become 10. We have 25 campus eateries that will soon become 35. I'm excited to be on this panel today. I want to say to Ken, thank you for inviting me on this panel, but also from all our Canadian represented schools here today, thank you for bringing us along. We've had a fantastic week, so thank you to Ken, Chris, Garrett, Chef Alex, and Chef Bob.
I'm Mary Moulton at Kansas State University. We're a university in about 2 hours west of Kansas City. We have a smaller university than we have in Canada. We've got about 20,000 or a few more students. 2 major dining centers for residential. Also one that we're renovating for hopefully will be on board here in another year or so. And we also do have some restaurants, couple restaurants, some convenience stores, but our primary business is residential at Kansas State. And I'm probably I am the oldest one on the board here. I've been at Kansas State for 50 years.
Rodriguez, Texas Tech University. I'm the senior director of dining for hospitality services. Similar to my colleagues up here, Texas Tech is 40,000 plus students with about 8,200 residents on the meal plan and somewhere between 10 to 12,000 commuters. We're just mostly retail. We have a number of retail concepts across the campus. A lot of national brands. One of the things our program is we have just about all of them, it seems sometimes. The bread and butter of our program is our residential. And if you don't know where Lubbock is, you got to be going to Lubbock. Lubbock is West Texas, about 5.5 hours east of Dallas and 5.5 hours west of El Paso, so kind of out in the middle of nowhere. But nonetheless, also thank you, Ken, for inviting me here and for being a part of this group. And, thanks to all of you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tomas Ganaraya. I am the now assistant vice president for dining and auxiliary operations in Northwest Massachusetts, about an hour and a half north from here. We are 100% residential campus, liberal arts education, operating a production kitchen, 3 all-you-can-eat dining halls, 4 retail, and now the bookstore, and a new hotel, transportation, mailroom, print. And thank you for having me here, and thank you for UMass for being a great partner and a neighbor of ours.
And what is the name of your college?
Oh, I didn't say that. Williams College. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. And Mary, in this business, we call that experience. So we're great to have you. My name is Jeff Palmer. I serve as the Senior Director of Dining and Retail Services for UC San Diego. We are a extremely large growing campus at this point. So if you're ever down in La Jolla, California, you'll see a whole lot of cranes. We're currently going from 20,000 beds and targeting well over 35,000 beds at this point. So there's currently not enough beds in California, so there's a lot of growth happening in that area. And so, they're kind of a different model. We are a declining balance model. We serve at over 18 residential dining, retail, and specialty dining restaurants throughout campus. We're on the college system, so for those of you who aren't familiar with that, it's kind of like Harry Potter. You're in a college based on not your degree, but rather your area of focus as a person. And your degree is part of that. And so we have 10 colleges, and students are in the different colleges, so we have dining within those spaces, but also shared spaces between them. And a lot of wonderful things going. We also are one of the few campuses that has our own beach. So if you're ever down in San Diego, come on down. We'd love for you to check it out.
So if you're looking to visit San Diego, look for the beach and the cranes and Jeff Palmer, and you'll be right where you think you're supposed to be. Great regional representation here, so we've got representation from both coasts and also from the middle of the country, so we should get a good perspective on that. Jeff, I'm going to start with you, and we talk a ton about how we need to make sure that our students are getting access to nutritious foods and that we are giving them access to sustainable options and that we are running a sustainable operation here. But does that simply mean we got to have a vegetarian option, we got to have a vegan option, we got to make sure we reduce our dependence on single-use plastics? Or is there more to what the future holds for sustainability and nutritious foods?
Yes, absolutely. A very important question. Sustainability is one of those hot topics that we keep talking about it, and so is nutrition. And I would urge you to think about it a little bit differently. Is great food first. You start with great food, and then it is kosher, vegan, halal, vegetarian, wherever you're going. But start with great food, because if you're trying to make something nutritious but it's not delicious, you miss the point, right? So start with great food. When you're looking at sustainable food products, one of the big focuses we have on the West Coast, obviously we have great seafood. We've had great seafood throughout this conference. Is looking at what you have around you, looking at the sustainable products around you, looking at what is there locally, regionally. For us, it's seafood. Our students really resonate with seafood. So we focus on seafood as something on front burner for us, supporting Monterey Bay Seafood Watch List, and really identifying with what the students' needs and wants are. Many campuses, your top products may be pizza, chicken tenders. Our largest purchase is in tuna and salmon. Chicken tenders are number 3, of course. You can't live without those, right? I heard the dino bites yesterday. Can't live without those. But seafood is really one of those sustainable places that we're seeing a lot of growth in. Additionally, in whole grains, looking at different legumes and proteins that are not just animal proteins, but how do you get creative with those? As opposed to just saying, okay, it's going to be tofu or portobello mushrooms. There's so many other options, and looking at the diverse variety of making the food great. I don't think you can really talk about sustainability or nutrition without talking about some of the other specialties. We're hearing so much about halal and kosher, and if you're not doing it, I encourage you to look at it. It's not as hard as it sounds. Oftentimes you look at it and you see these areas, and it's a little concerning, but when you start to get into it and you start to learn about the process, it's not anywhere near as hard as it looks. So I would encourage you all to learn about it and understand it, because these things that we're being asked for can be done, and you're probably already doing many things that fit right in line with that. Looking at from a sustainability standpoint, we have a list of over 50 ingredients that are on our ban list that I mentioned were from California. Red dyes, things like that. Again, things that are very easy to do and to support from a sustainability standpoint once you just start educating yourself and your team in these spaces. And you know, I'd also like to leave you with, yes, there are a lot of wonderful analogs out there, and I think, you know, we all see as leaders in dining that students are shifting towards vegan, vegetarian, flexitarian diets, especially flexitarian. But what I see is those products support, they have a place, but find the right balance, because vegetables that taste like vegetables are also absolutely amazing. And so that is a sustainable platform that we can support, and something that I would, you know, love to see even more of.
Thanks, Jeff. And to mention, let's jump across the entire country and go from Southern California to Massachusetts here. Anything else you would add in terms of what we should start looking at if we're trying to be more nutritious and sustainable for our students?
Yeah, particularly in our campus, it's a real holistic approach. In 2021, we completed our strategic plan, and one of the major pillars were sustainability. And within sustainability, we look at it from the three scopes, right? On-campus combustion, which is working on transitioning and closing down our steam plant and goes to geothermal. We look at scope 2, which is purchase electricity. We participate in the Farmington Solar Project to offset that until the national grid start transitioning to more renewable energy. And then we choose as a campus to be all-encompassing to account for scope 3, which is transportation and food. And food is the largest emission to account for that scope. And we work to weave in the strategic plan within our mission, values, and vision. And we just signed the Break Free for Plastic Bans. Our president did a signing. We signed up for the Good Food Pledge, which does carbon accounting. So we are really challenged by the administration, but also by our students. And not only what we're offering for them to consume, but how are we contributing to the overall net neutral of our campus. So we're looking at researching how do we transition our equipment to electric. That's very important to them. How do we purchase more local food in a dairy-heavy region within Massachusetts? We're looking at ways to zero waste, and how do we reduce waste? How do we communicate? How do we educate? And Good Food Pledge, which is really focused on food, as was mentioned earlier, is we just come up with creative ideas such that a lot came through the pandemic, such as mobile ordering. Our Grab and Go program was closed, and we transitioned to mobile ordering for the pandemic. One thing that we noticed was that we didn't have leftover goods. We don't have to forecast what students want. It's all mobile ordering. There we do 25 orders every 15-minute interval. They're left in refrigerated air screens. Students come and pick it up. Don't have any leftovers or excess. We work on build your own grain bowl concepts. We start at the first year dorm, which has a dining hall, and we really feature plant-based or multi-themed cultural build your own grain bowls while they walk in through the door, to start creating those habits and exposing them to different ways of consuming food. And then it also gave us great opportunities to develop our staff. We partner with the Culinary Institute of America. Every January they come and we do a 5-day back to the basics training. And we really focus on legumes, grains, sustainability. How do we cook those vegetables and those ancient grains in a manner in which is flavorful, it's done well, account for carryover, just to make sure when they have those experiences in the first year dorm that it's a positive one. and start creating those habits early and having the conversations with our students to help overall reduce our emissions from all three areas that we measure.
Great, I love that. So I didn't tee up these guys with these, what are you talking about when you think about sustainability? Jeff went to local, getting some seafood in there. Sebastian went more toward the emission side of things and the footprint that you're making. It just goes to show the umbrella that is sustainability is so large. We can't tackle all of it at once, but we can take off bite pieces and see what's most important to our administration and to our students. Let's go there first. So, Mary, Ken always likes to say that food is life, and we all in this room believe that. It's hard sometimes to get the administration of the colleges and universities that we support to believe that food is an integral part of the educational experience that they have when they're at our institutions. So how do we do that? How do we start taking the idea that food is life and food is an integral part of the whole educational experience?
Thank you, Charlie. I think that is really at the heart of what we do every day. And I so enjoyed listening to the students yesterday, and I think every one of us were awed with the learning and the education that these students receive because they're working in a housing and dining, we're housing and dining, isn't it all dining, working in these dining operations. It's just amazing the enthusiasm they had for their degrees and for what they were learning on campus in their academic program. And so I was thought to myself, how can we make that learning more institutionalized? How can it be part of what we do for the academic institution, not just for dining services, where we've got a great student, we've got great projects, and we grow that from our operations. And we get a few students doing a few things, and are really excited about it. But can we bring that into the academic world and get the academic world using us as places that students can learn, as laboratories? We do so many things in engineering, in architecture. Right now we're working on a project with architects. Bring classes in and be able to let those classes see what we're doing. So the exposing of our worth and exposing of us being more than just a food service organization that serves meals, get the whole academic community involved with coursework and tying into what we do. Working with some of the IFMA folks last month, talking about what kind of employees that they need. And so many of them are tied to having some knowledge about food service. So if we can work with the Hormels that I know are working with our business school, they interview with our business school, working with the ConAgra interviews with our food science group. And I met just this last week with a person that is in food science, teaches in food science, and we're going to set up places in our operations that they can bring labs in once a week and develop some products that these students in food science need to have some experience in doing when they go out into the work world. And this is going to be a program that's every semester set up. It's on a syllabus, and they know what they're going to do. And we've done that with some other classes as well. We've done it with engineering. We've done ergonomic studies. We've had engineering do some lighting studies. They're not quite as much set for every semester doing that, but we've done quite a bit. So to kind of answer the question on the question of how are we going to get other people to see what we're doing and what we can do, we've got to develop those relationships, and it's sometimes hard to do. When you're trying to clear the swamp and the alligators are up higher than we've got time to deal with. we've got to work with these academicians and work with the partners in some of the academic world and expose them to what we can do and what we can add to what the students will do. And I think that's an area that really is wide open for us to be part of that university in a much richer way. But it's developing relationships. You know, we've got to take the time to be on committees and to be on faculty senate and those kinds of things, to really be able to be a part of more than just the dining services. And it takes time. You know, going to some of those meetings, going to some of those residence life meetings, you can imagine, for those who work with residence life, it takes a lot of time and a lot of patience sometimes. But to be able to talk with the vice presidents and the president, in fact, our president happens to be one of the first authors on writing the Serve Safe exam. So he's kind of tuned into it and is very interested in what we do. But my point is develop those relationships. Work with the academic areas that you know there's some overlap in what learning they're needing to have, and the things that we can do to help that. But not just with the students, but with the faculty and with the deans and with the administrators, and it's going to take time to do. And retention is a big word on every campus, and we've got more opportunity to help retain students and to get students to come to our campuses. And I think we probably do a better job of communicating that work, but that's another area that I believe resonates with administrators that are counting noses at their level. So it's, I think some great opportunities, some things that we can do better than anyone can do. And it takes every one of us in our little part of what we do to make that work for an academic world to be able to count on us and to do it. It's not easy with both a student in a lab and 1 year being or needing some piece of equipment. You've got some things to work out, but it is, I think, makes a very rich environment that exposes us as more than just a place that serves meals, teams, academic and administrative folks at our universities.
Thanks, Mary. Colin, anything to add from north of the border or around what we can do to greaterly involve dining services into the fabric of the entire sort of educational experience?
I think Mary gave a great response. I'm struggling to pick up on everything that she's left out, but I would pick up on student retention. I would say student recruitment is a big piece for sure. And campus dining plays a huge part in that. I don't think sometimes people truly understand, certainly on the leadership side, what we bring to the table. As people who are engaged in student recruitment, people need to partner with to tell our story. Because I think they go out and do these recruitment fairs and not truly understanding of the value offering that we bring to the table. So I think that, touching on what Mary said, get out of our comfort zone, collaborate and partner with other departments and faculties, and really do tell our story. One of I report to a leader, and I often talked about UMass, and I said, we got to go and see UMass. He never believed about the story about UMass. And he walked into this fantastic facility that we're in today, and within 10 minutes he turned to me and he said, I got it. And sometimes it takes that to take leadership to other dining halls. I've never been to Cornell building with their father's new Morrison dining hall facility. What facility that is. And I think that's the piece too. We talk about students. Students are already there. They know what campus dining needs to bring to the table. We need to respond to those requests and those demands. They give us enough feedback. We need to learn from that feedback. We do enough surveys. Don't just do a survey and stick it on the shelf. Actually dust it off and do something with it. But I think Mary's point around pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, going to those meetings, yes, some of them can be long and laborious, but putting yourself out there, being engaged with the campus community, and telling your story. I think that sometimes is the difficult part, and we're not really good at telling our story. I think we have to learn from some of our peers, and they tell their story. UMass is a great story. Come talk to Ken, campus share all the stories you want, but I think that's the big piece for campus dining. How do we tell our story better so it resonates with students before they arrive on campus, and that all of our campus community understands what we bring to the table.
Thanks, Colin. I think that's just, if we can sum up this, that one piece from both Mary and Colin there, it is, let's tell our story about why we are important. And if we can synthesize that story into something that is really easy to digest for our senior administration, that's going to put us on the right path toward being more involved as part of the fabric of the entire educational experience. All right, so we talked about sustainability, we talked about a little about nutrition, we talked about opportunities to become more involved with the administration. Kirk, I'm now going to turn to the harder part of things these days, the reality of the cost of labor and how it continues to go up. We can't mitigate the cost of labor by just raising the prices of our meal plans to be commensurate with the increase in labor costs. So that leaves us at a point now where we're seeing one cost go up here, but we can't raise it. So what do we do? How do we overcome some of the labor challenges that we're facing in the industry right now?
Yeah, Charlie, thank you. It's interesting. Betsy and I were having this very conversation this morning as we were, preparing for this session. There's no, we've talked a lot this week, and again, just a lot of the sessions that Ken has provided, this conference has provided about how we're going to deal with some of the challenges that we face. And the great thing about this conference and so many, a few weeks ago, where we come together, we collaborate, we share, and so it gives me a lot of comfort that I'm not alone in this, right? We're all trying to figure out how we're going to solve these issues. But I think this week we received a number of some great direction with regards to technology, right? How can we harness technology? We were having a discussion yesterday, again, over lunch with some peers, about using technology to help us in what we do, not to replace the human touch, because that is so critical and so important. We were talking again with some students yesterday on how automation is not the answer. We want to turn to it because we think that it's going to solve a number of our issues, but we can't lose sight of the fact that students, the people that we serve, we're in the business of serving, and it is building that connection. So again, it's using it to how can it support but not replace those key pieces, those connection points. The other is automation and AI. I'll tell you that yesterday and even on Monday when Michael was giving his presentation, I had to reach over to Taylor, our student, as to what is he really saying, right? How do we make that work? But I think one of the things that I did learn that was an aha moment for me was utilizing AI for some of those repetitive, some of those things that are just monotonous. And so how can we harness it again to tackle some of those areas where again, though it makes sense, right? It's an area that really makes sense. The other is education. Education. We're in the education business. Yes, we're in the food business, but again, as Mary just mentioned, there's that connectivity, there's that partnership that I think we often don't take advantage of. Me personally, when I think about Texas Tech, we have a hospitality program on our campus. And it's been a rocky road because again, we have not done a good job of what we provide as a program, what we provide in terms of experiences, what we provide in terms of education. And so again, a continued piece, not only for our students, but staff, right? And how we make sure that that's a critical part so that they're growing as well. And then the other is, again, you can't have a discussion, I have to say this almost in bated breath from Texas, and the fact that DEI and the fact that is a critical piece. Diversity, and making sure that we're being supported. When we think about what we're faced with labor, right, is how do we harness again those individuals, because it is such a diverse, certainly in Texas, our Hispanic population continues to drive a number of our staff on our campus, and so creating programs that support them. We have a Spanish to English class that we support. We have a culinary training that our executive chef and our culinary folks, they use that to grow their culinary skills. So again, these are all opportunities for ways in which we can help to tackle some of these labor issues, but at the same time, how we can pinpoint how we can band together. And then some of it, trying to think is, again, it is cost issue. that we're going to have to ask. What are we doing? I think one of the things in dining, certainly for us, is we tend to want to do it all, right? You want something done, come to dining and dining will take care of it. But we gotta get away from thinking that we can do it all for everyone and really concentrate on what's important and where our priorities strategically, where those lie.
Thanks, Kirk. Mary, I'll go back to you. Any thoughts from you as well around some of the challenges, not even just around labor, but supply chain shortages or food cost increases? And just a reminder, you talk into the microphone.
Will do. Everything in our operation just revolves around labor, and I think we have really got to figure out how we're going to get people, to keep people, and to keep them long enough that we can get some, training in that they can do some of the things that we want to do. And I'm listening to Jerry Fernandez yesterday. I really kind of made me rethink about how do we need to reshape our hours that employees work. We have been pretty traditional. We need you all day long. We haven't got much that needs to be done between 2 and 4 in the afternoon when you can work. We need the hours that like work. But we've got to rethink that. We've got to be a little more flexible in how we're hiring, the shifts that we're hiring for, and I think we need some pay scale changes in order to address the times that we could get people, but they need to make more than those that want to work between 2 and 4 in the afternoon perhaps. Now, tied into a state system, that's not the easiest thing in the world for us to do. We've got so many layers of salary ranges and things. It's going to take some time to get figured out. But we do have to figure out the labor issue pretty quickly. We're in pretty tough shape right now, trying to find people that are there to do the things that we want to get done. Now, the supply chain issue, it's much better than it was 2 or 3 years ago, but it's still a little sketchy here and there, but we're dealing with it. Now, we happen to have a central food stores, so we're able to bring product in to a central food stores and be able to ship it out when requisitions come in for it. So that has helped us in the supply chain. One of the cost of shipping, trucking costs have gone up considerably, more than product costs, and to bring things into central food stores we're seeing a real increase in the cost of that as well. But I think that our labor issue and solving that labor issue and needing to do some of the things that's going to attract employees to work. Again, I said I've been here 50 years. We used to be able to just, here's my hour, take the job or leave it, and we have 500 people to choose from one job. That's not the case now, and it hasn't been the case for a while, and it's certainly not going to be the case for the future. And we've got to balance better, I think, the labor requirements as well as the equipment requirements we've done for a while. What a menu, we used to, years ago, not serve 20 different things in 20 different venues around the dining center, like we see here. It was much easier, but we've got to be able to put menus together that really have some consideration for labor different than what we would have to do before.
Yeah, I think that gets to a point of, at what point do you streamline your operation to try and reduce your dependency on labor, but you don't want to take away from the student experience of being able to choose from multiple options. Obviously, each option then requires it to be staffed. So you're in this balancing act of how do you continue to deliver a high quality experience for the student with less dependency on labor. And I think, Kirk, you mentioned automation. Whenever you think automation, you think, well, there's a huge cost, initial cost involved in it. And it's beginning to explain to the administration, how does that cost defer off of labor costs in the future? That's a tough argument. Go ahead, Judge.
I just want to add an additional point. Last summer, we had approximately 30% of our staff vacancy. And, when working with human resources, they look at national and regional numbers for benchmarking hourly rates. And it wasn't helping. But Kurt also mentioned, we're in the business of wanting to do everything. So strategically, it's important that there has to be a cause and effect. If X amount of employees are vacant, we can't do Y amount of things. And when we took that tactic, just not to overstretch staff or cause more sick time or absenteeism to go up, we analyzed the absenteeism hours by month, year over year, sick time, year over year, month over month, leave time, and it's astronomical compared to pre-pandemic times. So when we said we need to stop looking at national and regional numbers and look exactly what's happening around us, and we changed the rates, and we stopped looking, our expectations changed. We stopped looking for the talent that has the experience that we're looking for, but we really truly look for good people and put the training and development programs into place. And it dramatically changed the way our operation worked by making those changes. The vacancies went down to less than 5% when we made those rate changes, which then resulted in our overall labor year over year to go down, because productivity is up, sick time is down, absenteeism down, staff going on leave. Well, thank you. I thought I was pretty loud. So there's other ways of measuring what areas you have open versus how many staff you have, and our expectations, and also and being able to advocate for those initiatives, because for our case study, it really did translate to tangible change and improvements to our operation.
That's a story you don't hear very often these days, is actually vacancies going down as opposed to vacancies going up. All right, let's move on to a more fun topic now, which is how do we create more revenue within our operations outside of depending exclusively on meal plans as a core revenue generator. And in many cases, of course, then we'll think about hosting conferences, catering opportunities, things like that. And so, Colin, I'm going to turn to you, and realizing, of course, that if somebody wants to do a catering operation at West Ontario, they have to use you, right? You're the exclusive, but they also have to choose to pay to do that. So what have you done there that has made your catering and conference support so successful?
Yeah, as Scott said, so for us, we are exclusively on our campus. They have to use our catering services. But we have built a very robust conference and catering services model. And, I'd like to acknowledge my executive chef who's in the room today, Christian Crossan. He really has developed not only the menu, but also the standards of service. And I think that's really key, because sometimes when you've got exclusivity, it's easy to relax. It's easy to take your eye off the ball, so to speak. For him, it's all about standards each and every time. We're only as good as our last service, so it's thanks to kudos to him and his team. We've developed that model and gained leadership support and kind of leadership confidence in it. When the president's down, we're at the president's house on frequent weeks and days, and the support we get from the leadership on that program is huge. And when I talk about exclusivity, I was at another campus, used to work at another campus where we didn't have exclusivity. And where you see the value of exclusivity, so in our program currently in conference and catering, we're surpassing pre-pandemic revenue levels. We're having an extremely banner year this year, and next year is trending in the same direction. So that's kudos to the team who built up those standards and maintained them time after time. When we do increase prices, we don't get any pushback because people know what type of service they're going to get. On the other campus where I didn't have that exclusivity, we actually went back to our financial department and said, hey, can you show us who's spending money and how much and where off campus? It was alarming to see that the president was spending millions of dollars a year off campus catering and not using our in-house service. So That's the importance of exclusivity in terms of generating that revenue, but all you've got to maintain the standards. Another program is we're always looking to see where we can increase revenue. We've developed a program with what we call off-campus meal plan partners. That's working with local QSRs, so we can make a meal plan available so students can spend their dollars in those QSRs. We have 26 on the books currently, and we're getting 15% commission of every sale in those QSRs. That's money that we don't have to generate a lot of labor to gain. The other piece for me is mobile ordering. It's well documented. Mobile ordering, average check increases. So you have to embrace that technology. Starbucks Connect. You haven't got a Starbucks Connect in your store. I would encourage you to do so because revenue increases 18% right out of the gate. So I think embracing technology is key for going forward. And coming up with some new and out-of-the-box initiatives to generate revenue should always be what you're striving to do.
Thanks, Kyle. And Jeff, in San Diego, what are some of the other areas that you're looking at to drive revenue for your overall dining program?
So I think revenue is one of those spaces that revenue is one of those spaces that we don't always talk about, right? We're in the business of service. We're in the business of taking care of students. Without additional revenue, though, sometimes it becomes more challenging. Sometimes you have to lose the things that are important to you if you don't do that. So looking at alternative revenue sources is very significant. Catering is a big one. Supporting your campus, working with campus leadership to get that exclusivity has been huge for us. It doubled our catering business over the last 2 years and had a significant financial impact. You double the business, you increase the volume, you have your fixed costs already set. The rest comes down to the bottom line. So that brings in a lot of additional revenue, both from off campus and within campus. But really looking at how are we going to support high-paying jobs on campus? How are we going to support jobs that matter within? And so oftentimes we see programs outsourced. Some of those make a lot of sense. Some of those are areas that don't have high margins. Some of them are areas that have significant margins that you might want to take a look at. If a vending company or third-party company is offering you 20 to 30% to do business, take a minute and think about why. If they're giving you 20 to 30%, what are they making on that? Look at some of these services and try to understand how can you insource them, providing more high-paying jobs, providing more resources, controlling the flow of food, but also really offering the variety that you want. So if it's vending, you're looking at either low or no sugar vending options, things that have value, that have meaning and the mission to your role and within your department. Look at products. Over the last few years, we insourced all of our grab and go. Many of you may be using things like we were using sushi, sandwiches, salads, grab and go items. It was a couple $1 million worth of business and we were pushing it out. It was easy to push it out, right? The product was okay until you look at the sushi and you realize that what they're putting in the rice is not something you would ever put in rice, right? And that is not what sushi is all about. It's about great seafood. It's about having wonderful flavors. And so by doing things like this, there's a significant margin of profit. And so you might say, well, I don't have the staff for it. In those situations, it makes sense to bring the staff in. And some other campuses, I've talked to some colleagues around the country, and some of you are looking at decreased attendance. So instead of looking at how are we going to support layoffs or how are we going to not fill positions, look at these programs that you can insource and bring in to add quality, to add variety, to control the ingredients that are in your products. Also looking at different things like, heat and serve. There's a lot of shift. Are there things that they can heat up in their dorm room? Are you buying completely frozen items in some of your retail spaces? Or can you take these items and let them take them back to their rooms and microwave them? Additionally, talking about catering a little bit, there's other areas that you send out a lot of business. So take a look at what you send out. We looked at alcohol, and in the state of California, in the UC system, we can't sell alcohol. That may be you. Some of you may sell alcohol. But what we did was we took a different approach. We found a way to provide alcohol service by getting a contract, taking a margin, so they're still paying the same prices if they went out to that vendor, but it's a one-stop shop. And we're getting a margin in there for just setting it up. We already have the business, look at it. There's things like linens that you may be doing. Other places like that within your event space that you'll see revenue generation. Also looking at, when we're talking about food insecurity, where are the spaces that we can make changes? And for us, we are as I previously mentioned, we have a food service side, but we also have a retail side. For us, it's 50% retail and 50% residential dining under the declining balance model. We have brought EBT, supporting food security, into the system, and that has been a significant amount of outside revenue. With the changes recently to EBT, or something we call it CalFresh in California, but some may call it food stamps in your area, there are a lot of students that, as we know, that are going hungry. In California, the numbers show from financial aid that they went from 30% to 66% food insecure over the last couple of years. That's significant. How do we help support it? Yes, we all are working on different programs like food pantries and those wonderful things, but do you have EBT in your retail spaces? Can they buy groceries? Can they take those home? Can they make sandwiches in their rooms? Take a look at the questions and look at the answers of those questions a little bit differently and see other spaces that you can kind of change that conversation. Supporting students, look at your employment differently. Are you able to hire more student employees? Do you have student employees that want to work? Some campuses don't, so you end up with more career or professional staff. Other campuses, you can bring students in. We don't have the benefit of a wonderful hospitality program like that. We're a very STEM-based university, but we have students that want to work every day, and they want to provide that level of service. So are you able to do that? Are you able to support those high-paying jobs for your students? Looking at other programs, just to add a few more, coffee. There's never enough coffee on campus. If you think you're going to create competition for yourself, you're crazy. Look around. All they want is coffee, energy drinks, things along those lines, high-margin products, right? Adding another coffee shop across from the coffee shop, you don't think it works, look for a Starbucks and find the nearest one, right? They're everywhere. You can always add more coffee, more beverages, great margins in those spaces, but coffee carts, if you can't do it yourself, look at putting it out as a third party. If you can get 15 or 20% from having that additional revenue, it just makes sense. It's money that just comes in and supports, and it has no cost to you. Take a look at food trucks. You know, throughout campus, you may have food trucks, you may run food trucks. We have a couple food trucks. We only use them for our catering and special events. However, there are food deserts within our campus. And those food deserts provide a lot of additional revenue of outside dollars that are really needed. And so whether it's a shift for us with construction, or whether it's a shift because we haven't yet been able to support that area of campus in the way that we like, can we bring in food trucks? And can we find a company that can provide these services for us and give us additional revenue streams? And last is look at your campus. You look around at UMass and you see an absolutely beautiful campus. I've been to many other campuses around the country and they're gorgeous. They're a destination. They're places for a wedding. They're places for a special event. They're places for those important conferences. Look at how you can fit into those downtimes to support these wonderful special events. And if it means you pop something up on a lawn and you do a wedding in front of a beautiful pond outside, take advantage of your assets. Take advantage of these beautiful places that we have during our downtimes, and look at how you can bring revenue so that revenue can continue to support your program, which ultimately supports your students.
That's great thoughts, Jeff. And Ken, just so you know, if I do get remarried, I'm getting remarried here at UMass.
I'll give you a
plan ahead for that one. It's going to be a bash.
Give a good bonus.
Are there any manufacturer suppliers in the audience? Wow, they all went home already. There's one or two of you in the back. I'm going to go ahead and ask the question, even if there aren't any suppliers in here. And to mention, as you look at your supplier base and the ones that help you get the food and beverages and non-food products you need for Williams College, what sets the more strategic ones apart from the ones that are more in a transactional relationship with you?
No, it's a great question, and I challenge ourselves in our operations. It's really hard to understand what those strategic partners mean and what they can provide for your operation if you don't take the time to really self-reflect on your operation and what it means and what's important to you. And I say that from my lens. 5 years ago, I came to Williams College from New York City, from B&I, where all those deals were done prior to my arrival. Within the business I was working in. So to actually negotiate those relationships were very new to me during a pandemic and during an RFP. But throughout the last 5 years, with the campus completing a strategic plan, Understanding accessibility, so we now have rules and protocol for our allergen-free station, so we know what we need there. We did a risk assessment document about our hazard plans, food tracing. We challenged every single layer of our operation, from our food management system to our POS system, to our signage, our social media, and documented everything through student input, through staff input. And this year we're going out to RFP, but now we know who we are and what we need, and we can have really transparent conversations with our strategic partners. It's important to me and my campus that we don't play games. We just tell you exactly what it is. We don't play the negotiation game. We talk about what our expectation is, what are our needs, how can we work together to get things done, and go from there. And really understand where the gaps are within our systems and how can those partnerships help fill those gaps. Whether it's financing training programs, so it's never on the chopping block. That's important to my staff, that's important to me. I never want it to be at risk, so that's something that I talked with our strategic partners about. Going to IFMA, I went to IFMA COAX for the first time and had a eureka moment and kind of spoke to my broadliners and say, look, I appreciate you doing sampling and showing my chefs and my management team new products, but please be transparent about when the rollout can happen. When is the manufacturers actually ramping up? Because we create a perception that you're not providing us with what we need if you're over-promising and under-delivering. And saying that, and saying, we're not taking business away from you, we just will launch that item in the spring. I think really being true to yourself and understanding what your operation is, what's important to you, lifting every rock and challenging your current system so you can better know what the opportunities lie, and really position yourself to really be in a position to really communicate what you really need versus changing throughout the contract year. I think that really benefits both the supplier and us as an operation, and truly transforms it to being, we say relationships, but those are the components needed to have true relationships.
That's great thoughts. We have a couple minutes. Be happy to have anybody from the audience that wants to ask any of our panelists a question. Doesn't have to be related to any of the topics we've had here, but you can tell that we've got 5 powerhouses up here. Is there anybody that wanted to ask a follow-up question to any of our audience? Mr. Steve Mangan does. Can we get him a microphone, please?
I'd be curious to hear what keeps each of you up at night with all the problems we've got.
Let's go to Canada first.
I think it's just student experience for sure. I worry that every day. Are we delivering on our expectation for sure? First and foremost, that's why we're there. I think secondly for me is it's the money piece. It's the bottom line profitability. I got to return something to the university, and that's getting more and more challenging for sure. And I think we get back to what we need our leadership to understand is in our industry we have the tightest margins of any industry. Do they truly understand that? So bringing a return back is doubly difficult, but you're still trying to deliver on student experience. And some of it is all the costs that they're laying onto us in terms of paying for other services. I used to work in healthcare, and the beauty of didn't charge me space costs, didn't charge me utilities. That helped me return bottom line, plus also provide a service to your customers. So I think that's the piece that probably keeps me awake most of the night. It's just the numbers game. That doesn't go away, but it does keep me awake at night. Student experience for me is utmost important because if we can take care of that, will always be a self-op skill first and foremost. But when the university is asking for another 2 or 3% every year, I don't know where you're going to get that from.
I just want to add, on our campus, as far as I've been told, we had our first, oh, this is gonna be hard, suicide on campus. And what really creates fear for me is, you know, we have a 7.5% acceptance rate, and we rely on the academic, the rigorous academic profile that we have for our students. And campus life, community, our students' experiences is a very hard battle to have, to show how important you are when you work for an institution that is known to be the best in class for what they do. That's been a difficult conversation to have. And I just don't want to see a small community like ours have something so tragic to happen, knowing that we could do things better in creating a community-based environment for our students, to have those conversations, to have those moments of reprieve between classes. So that's what keeps me up at night. It was a rude awakening for me, and it hit me in a way that I didn't know it would.
Steve, I think it's the balance. To me, it's are we providing the services, are we providing the support that our students need? One of the things that continues to keep me up at night, again, is very similar, where students are truly, mental health is becoming a crisis. And so when I'm being asked to give more to the university and give back to this area and that area and support different areas across campus, it's then taking away from the things that we can provide our students, the experiences and the support. And those are the things that trouble me, is that how do I continue to balance that? As a self-op program, those are things that are critical, because we want to maintain that. And I think that's key and important, because the decision makers are on campus, it's us, and we're making the best decisions for our students. So it's that balance. Thanks.
Steve, I'm a little bit the same as Kirk. It's being able to provide the services that students need and want, and keep them happy and at Kansas State and stay from year to year. So how do we do that with some of the challenges that we have, some of the financial challenges somewhat, but the challenge of labor, to get the labor to do what we want to continue to do. But it's that connection with students and offering them what they need and want, and what we want to deliver with some of the resources that we have to do it with.
That's great. Please join me in congratulating and thanking our amazing panel, everybody. And thanks again to UMass and Ken for inviting me to sing. If anybody is interested, if you're a college university operator and you're interested in finding out more about IFMA, I'll be around for the next 10 minutes or so. College university operators are welcome to join our association at absolutely no cost. So with that, I'll hand it over back over to Paul.
All right, thanks, Charlie, and thanks again to all of our panel. At this time, we'd like to gather all the chefs, and we'll head out the back here, grab a tote on your way out, and head downstairs for your group photo.